Hi, I'm Alian, and I'm once again experimenting with microalgae. I am leaving the house tomorrow for 10 days. I'm going to Toronto, and unfortunately that means that I have to leave this basement lab behind. But before I leave, I want to do some cleanup and some quick checks on my algae. As you might know, I am running a new experiment starting soon with this thing called a bioreactor, which is basically a small bioreactor similar to the one I've got right here next to me. Now, I've been growing the algae I need for that in here, and I just want to check on the health of these algae to make sure that they'll be working for the bioreactor. So, like I mentioned, the bioreactor is a really small bioreactor. It's only 20 milliliters, which is super small for a bioreactor. This one I've got here is 1 whole liter, 1,000 milliliters. But what that means is that I can run some really quick tests on it, and that's why it's super useful. So I'm going to be taking 10 milliliters of algae from here and putting them into that 20 milliliter bioreactor, and having that will leave enough carbon dioxide in the rest of the bioreactor, 10 milliliters of algae, and then 10 milliliters of air space, basically, which has the carbon dioxide the algae will need to grow over the course of my experiment. So I just want to check on the health of these algae and make sure they're going to be functional for the bioreactor. So I'm just going to pipe it out 10 milliliters and just take a quick look, basically. So as you can see, the algae are growing nice and well in here. It's all nicely lit. I have the bubbler plugged in over there as well, which I turn on periodically to make sure they have enough air. So I'm just going to go and check on what the color of the microalgae is pretty much. The color of the algae is a good indicator of their growth because it indicates their density, basically how much algae is in those 10 milliliters that I'm going to pull out. And with that, I can tell how much they're growing, how fast they're growing, and if they're growing well as a whole. So I'm going to pull out 10 milliliters of algae now. Oh, and as you can see, I've got the bubbler tube in there with a rock attached to it so it sinks. And the algae seem to be growing pretty well. Some have settled to the bottom, so that could do with a bit of a shake, but I'm gonna just give it a shot and see what's inside right now. So there we go. So these are the algae I've got right now. As you can see, they're pretty green, and you can see some particulate algae going on in there if you look really closely. Now I'm gonna hold them up against this white backdrop so you can see clearly the green color. As you can see, they're pretty faint green right now, which is okay for these algae. I think it's not bad, and they'll definitely grow a lot faster when they're in a smaller environment like the bioreactor. So hopefully they'll get darker. I think I'm gonna add some more nutrients to the bioreactor before I leave, just to make sure that they're gonna grow safely while I'm gone. Now that I've checked on the culture density of my algae, basically how green they are, the other thing I can check is the state of the nutrient medium they're in. So the algae are growing in this nutrient medium which has all kinds of different chemicals that the algae need to grow. And two of those chemicals, the important ones, are nitrate and phosphate. And they were actually the subject of my entire 6 months of experimenting with that wastewater thing. And even though I'm done the wastewater experiment, the test kits that I got, this one for phosphate and this one for nitrate, are still super useful because I can use them to check on the health of my algae. So I'm going to use the phosphate test kit to check on the levels of phosphate that are in the water. And if I see low phosphate levels, that means that the microalgae have depleted all the nutrients in the bioreactor. And odds are that if the phosphate is low, all the other nutrients are low. So I'll replenish all the nutrients based on that. So I am gathering a 1 milliliter sample from my bioreactor as I used to when I was testing with wastewater. It's gonna go in here. And then I'm going to fill the rest with water. And now I'm going to add a phosphate reagent packet to this sample. So I'm going to open this packet up, I'm going to pour the contents into this vial. And now I will shake it up for 2 minutes. And now I'm just going to zero my phosphate meter with this second unreacted vial right here. And now I'm going to add in my unreacted vial, this blue one here going into the test kit. and it's gonna sit for about 3 minutes. 3 minutes on this timer, gonna let it sit. All right, it's doing the test now. And I got 2.23. Now, from what I remember from my old wastewater and phosphate conversions, that's a super high number. That's more than enough than the algae need to keep growing for a long time. And that means odds are they haven't depleted any of the other nutrients. So I'm just gonna leave them be. I'll just leave them lit while I'm gone, and they'll be safe to grow. So yeah, that's 2 methods I can use to figure out how my algae are growing. First, looking at how green they are, look at the culture density, basically showing how fast they're growing, and the nutrient medium, which will let me know if they need any replenishment of nutrients and how much nutrient they're consuming at any given time. So those are 2 super important metrics. The next few weeks are going to be pretty hectic for my experiment. Like I mentioned, I'm going to Toronto this week, and one of the reasons I'm going to Toronto is for the Ingenious Plus Award ceremony, which I applied to a while ago for an award, a $1,000 award that I ended up getting. And I'm going to be going to the award ceremony in Toronto next week. So hopefully I'll be able to make a vlog about that as well. And after that, only a few days after I come back from Toronto, I am going to be in the Canada-wide Science Fair, which I mentioned I was going to be in a while ago at the end of April. And now we're approaching the end of May, and it's going to be happening from May 25th to June 1st, that I'm going to be at CWSF all week. It's going to be so much fun. I'm super excited, and I'm going to be preparing for that all throughout the month. So if you're interested in keeping up to date on what I end up doing with those things, as well as with what's upcoming with my next experiment, I encourage you to subscribe down below, follow me on LinkedIn, and I will see you in the next one.